Welcome back, dear student, to the next lecture on our ongoing course of Environmental Engineering. Welcome to the initiative Let's Crack the Gate. Myself, Dhruv Saxena, your course instructor for this course. So let us start with today's topics. Before that, in the previous topics, we discussed a lot of things with regards to water quality parameters. We discussed about demand forecasting and some other introductory parts. I request all of you who are new to this channel, please go and watch those videos also. They will immensely help in your GATE preparation. So let us start with today's topic. We will be continuing with the next one, that is taste and odor. Okay. So again, the problems that were present with color exist here also. If I give you again a glass of water that has some taste and odor from it, will you be able to drink it conveniently? No, I doubt it. No one will drink it. It is aesthetically displeasing, and much more than that, it may cause diseases to humans as well as animals both. And let us now learn what are some base tricks that how do we measure or quantify the taste and odor. We have a apparatus that its name is osmoscope. Let us understand about it. Let us learn the acceptable limits recommended by Government of India through water supply manual. So before that, let us quickly write down some points and then we'll discuss the apparatus, that is osmoscope, and how taste and odor is quantified. Okay. So taste and odor is determined by osmoscope. Okay, this is the apparatus we will be studying. What is the functioning? We take a sample of water and into it we add pure water. Okay, we keep on adding a certain quantity of pure water into it until the taste and odor ceases to be observed. Okay, quite simple. So its working principle is dilution. So it is determined, taste and odor is determined by osmoscope by diluting water sample up to an extent that taste and odor is hardly detectable. Now, what will be the unit? If you are quantifying something, then definitely it has a unit. So the intensity is measured intensity is measured in terms of standards units referred as TON. You can say ton, TON. It is technically termed as turn and it is the threshold odor number. Okay. What does it signify? It signifies the dilution ratio at which taste and odor is hardly detectable, at which taste and odor is hardly detectable. Okay, so what is the arrangement? We take a beaker. This is your test sample. I am writing it as TS. Now let us say that for just for this example, we have taken 40 ml of water sample as test sample. What we do? We add an equal amount of pure water into it. Okay, so we add 40 ml, then we check whether the taste and odor are detectable or not. If it is found to be detectable, then we again take this test sample. This will be 80 ml. Now we again add the same amount of pure water that we added initially, that is 40 ml. We again test for it. If the taste and odor comes, we keep on adding until we hardly find any amount of taste or odor into it. And mind it, remember that pure water that we add remains of same quantity as that of the taken it when we have taken it initially. Okay, so let us say that after doing it for the fourth time, first time we did, second, third and fourth, after doing it for the fourth time, we see that in the final sample we have the taste and odor are hardly detectable. We note down the quantity of this and then we further calculate the value of in terms of TON. Okay, we calculate the value in terms of TON. So how did we define the threshold odor number? It was basically the dilution ratio. Okay, how do we calculate it? The total volume that is free from taste and odor, that is this one. Let us quickly write down the volume of water sample that is free from taste and odor. We divide it by the initial volume of test sample, that is this one, volume of test sample. Now if we put the values, what is the result that we are getting? 200 by 40, it comes out to be 5. So 5 TON is the value that we obtained for this particular experiment, hypothetical experiment. Okay, now some points regarding it. The first point says that this testing should be done at normal temperatures. Okay, should be done at normal temperatures. And now let us learn what are the acceptable limits. The acceptable limit is 1 TON and the cause for rejection value is 3 TON. Okay, I hope you all will remember this value. Okay, Now, just for a small assignment, in the comment section below, mention the acceptable limits for color. Put it down in the comments if you can recall from the last lecture. And also, what were the methods to measure turbidity? Turbidity methods, okay? Just write down the names in the comment section. It will test your knowledge about the last lecture. If you are unable to recall, then no problems. You can revise it through your notes or through the notes I have shared in the Telegram group. If you haven't joined the Telegram group yet, then please join it using the link that is given in the description box. Some students were conveying an issue that they are unable to join the Telegram group. Please again try it. We have tested it. The link is absolutely correct. It's working perfectly fine. If you are unable to join in the first attempt, then please once again click it. There might be some issue with the linking between YouTube and Telegram. So eventually it will work and you will be able to join. All the other students have joined it so far. Again, I request to share this video with your friends if you find that these videos will be actually helpful in preparation of GATE 2022. Okay, now let us move ahead. Let us discuss the last physical water quality parameter. The last one is temperature. Now, for discussing about temperature with regards to water supply engineering, there is not much of a control that we can do because it will be economically impractical. But we need to understand that how temperature affects our purpose of providing the good quality, good with water with good standards. So we all know that biological activities and chemical reactions, they heavily depend upon the existing temperature. If the temperature is very low, then biological activities are low. As the temperature keeps on rising, we observe, we have already learned it in school as well, that as the temperature rises, the biological activity or the rate of activity or reaction increases. And also for certain chemical reactions, whenever they achieve particular temperature, so that reaction enhances. Okay, so we just need to take care about it, that what are the temperature of the surroundings, what are the possible activities that might be going on, and how can we control it. So let us quickly write these basic points about temperature. So temperature affects both affects both chemical and biological reactions. Okay, next, an average increase of 10 degrees centigrade in water almost doubles almost doubles the biological activity. Okay, now for our water supplies, the temperature should be in the range of 10 to 25 degree centigrade. Okay, so that's all about the physical water quality parameters. We learnt about turbidity, we learnt about color, taste, odor, temperature, suspended solids. Okay, I hope you can recall. Yesterday, I forgot to share with you the acceptable limits for suspended solids. So please write them down now. You can add them in the notes of suspended solids directly. So I'm writing limits acceptable limits are 500 milligram per liter, and cause for rejection value is 2000 milligram per liter. These values are for total solids, okay, total suspended solids, you can say. So, and in turbidity, we learnt about turbidity rod method. Just to revise, we learnt about Jackson turbid meter, we learnt about the methods involved in it. Then for color observation, we learnt about tintometer. Then we learnt about osmoscope for taste and odor. Okay, so that's all for physical water quality parameters. Now we will be moving on to our next topic. It is also under water quality parameters only. It is the the chemical water quality parameters. The chemical water quality parameters. A lot of questions are asked in GATE as well as other competitive exams directly from this topic. Okay, so I hope you keep on taking the notes and keep on learning it with full focus. So the first one that we need to discuss here is dissolved solids. If you can recall, I discussed a little about dissolved solids when we were discussing about total solids, suspended solids. Okay, now let us try to learn how the value of dissolved solids is quantified. So the basic method you can try, but that evaporation, but that will work to separate out the dissolved solid. So what we do, we firstly filter it out, then we use an apparatus. It is known as diionic tester. It works on the principle of electrical conductivity. Now for example, this is the water level. We dip the two electrodes, one being positive, other being negative. Okay, we connect it with a meter which measures the electrical conductivity through them. And as we know that whenever we have a very pure distilled water, there the electrical conductivity is negligible. And as and when there are carriers or number of solids that are available or ions that are available in form of dissolved solids, then the electrical conductivity significantly increases, and we use this phenomena to calculate the quantity of dissolved solids. Okay, so let us quickly write down. Now let us write, and this is an approximate analysis, an approximate analysis of total dissolved solids, or TDS, total dissolved solids, can be done by measuring electrical conductivity, by measuring electrical conductivity, or we can also measure the specific conductance or specific conductance. Okay, now how do we calculate it? TDS is given by 0.65 times the electrical conductivity. Now we all know the unit of resistance, resistivity. Can we guess what is the, or can we recall what is the value unit of electrical conductivity? For resistivity it is ohm, for conductivity it is mho. Okay, so we take the value in micromho, mho, okay, per centimeter at a temperature of 25 degrees centigrade. Okay, some additional points about this diionic tester. So electrical conductivity, oh sorry, of water is measured using the diionic tester, which gives the concentration of major ions or or common ions that might be present in the water, or common ions present in water. Okay, what are some of the major ions, such as, write down: sodium, calcium, magnesium, chlorine, sulfate ion, carbonate ion, or bicarbonate ion. These are some of the major or the common ions. Now, one of the drawbacks of this diionic tester is that we measure the electrical conductivity, and we all know that electrical conductivity can be only measured for those compounds that are ionic in nature. Now, for examples, there are some dissolved solids that are not of ionic nature. They are not non-ionic. So in that case, this test will not be able to quantify those values. And thus, we say that this is an approximate test, and it just gives the value based upon the ionic compounds that are present in the water. So let us write it down. It is an approximate test. It is an approximate test as it does not gives the concentration, as it does not gives the concentration of those dissolved solids, which are not present in ionic form, which are not present in ionic form. Okay, so that's about dissolved solids. Now let us move on to the next one, and a very important parameter, it is alkalinity. Okay, now how do we define the alkalinity word? Can anyone recall? Pause this video, take your time. We have learnt it in very good depth during our plus 1 and plus 2. Till then I will just take a short water break. So how do we define alkalinity? In very simple words, all those ions that are capable to react with hydronium ion are termed as alkalinity causing ions or alkalinity causing compounds. So let us write this definition first. A lot of questions are asked every year with this topic, be it engineering services, be it GATE. Alkalinity is defined as concentration of all the ions present in water that are capable of reacting with hydronium ion. Okay, please write it down. Another definition is that it may also be defined as the ability of water. It may also be defined as the ability of water to neutralize a given acid. To neutralize acid. Okay. Now let us learn what are some of the major constituents. We will be going in much depth in the coming time. I will try to get to it within this lecture, or max to max into the next lecture we will be covering this. So major constituents are carbonate, bicarbonates, and OH minus or hydroxide or caustic ions. Now the alkalinity that is observed because of carbonate is termed as carbonate alkalinity. The one due to HCO3 is termed as bicarbonate alkalinity. The one due to OH minus is termed as caustic alkalinity. Okay. Now what are some of the other constituents that might also cause alkalinity, but we term them as minor ones because they are less in concentration. So minor constituents include sulfite, ammonia, then phosphate, Then we have also silicate. Okay. So these are some of the ions which might cause alkalinity. Now, what is the reason? What is the source of these ions in the water? So alkalinity in water may be present due to presence of anions which may be of mineral origin or may be induced due to presence of dissolved gases or may also be present due to organic matter. So let us quickly write down the sources. What can be the sources? The sources include minerals origin based. Then we have dissolved gases, which might be a reason for this alkalinity, or it may be there due to, it may be present due to organic content present in water. Okay. Now, how dissolved gases and which dissolved gases mainly affect? So we are talking here about the major constituents. So let us see, because of dissolved gases, how it is developed. One of the major dissolved gases is CO2. Now, as CO2 is dissolved, it it uh, it is from the atmosphere and also due to aquatic plants and marine life. So it converts into H2CO3. Okay. Now this H2CO3, it disintegrates into HCO3 minus, which further disintegrates into CO3 2 minus. So we can see that hydronium ion is and this carbonate and this bicarbonate, they are maintaining an equilibrium. Okay. Now finally, what might be happening, that due to the presence of this carbonate ion in water, it will try to take the this hydronium ion, leaving aside hydroxide ion. Okay. Now this is the final equilibrium that is maintained. This is, although this is a very weak reaction. Please write it down, then we'll also discuss a little more about it. What we discussed here, we were discussing about how the how the carbonate, bicarbonate and caustic alkalinity is caused in the water because of dissolved gases. So I took an example of CO2. It combines with water to form H2CO3, which finally maintains an equilibrium in the form of this equation. Now, what is the problem if it is a very weak reaction? How will it affect? The problem exists when there is a presence of algae. So what does algae do? What do we have problem with algae? See what algae does here. Algae takes this HCO3 minus and it utilizes it for its energy gain. And as we all know, in a reversible reaction, if you take any of the element from any side, then that stability of that reversible reaction will be disbalanced and that reaction will move towards that direction. क्या मतलब है कि एल्गी अपनी एनर्जी बनाने के लिए HCO3 माइनस को यूज करेगा, यूटिलाइज करेगा। अब जैसे जैसे HCO3 माइनस खत्म होता जाएगा तो CO3 2 माइनस और वाटर मिलके और HCO3 बनाते रहेंगे। तो जितना ज्यादा ये रिएक्शन होता रहेगा उतनी ज्यादा बाइकार्बोनेट एल्केलिनिटी और पॉजिटिव एल्केलिनिटी बढ़ती रहेगी सिस्टम की। ठीक है, सो इस पॉइंट को जल्दी से लिख लेते हैं। Let us quickly write down the last reaction is very weak. The last reaction is very weak, but if algae is present in water, it utilizes the bicarbonate, it utilizes HCO3 minus. Why does it utilizes HCO3 minus? Because it needs to get the energy, and from where the algae gets the energy? From carbon, due to presence of carbon, which acts as a source of energy for algae. Okay, now what happens due to this? It results in accumulation of OH minus. Okay, it results in the accumulation of OH minus in the water system. That in turn increases its pH. Now hence what will happen? More the accumulation of OH minus ion, more will be the pH. So hence if algae is present or algae has been found in water system, the pH of water system is generally in the range of 8 to 10, is generally in range of 8 to 10. Okay, now what can be done to prevent? We should prevent the growth of algae so that alkalinity is not increased. Okay, the source of water should be chosen such that there is less of algae, and due to which the pH of the water system is not this high. Another reason of growth of algae, especially in lakes and ponds, is due to the use of insecticides and fertilizers that are being used in the farms. What happens? We use phosphorus as fertilizer and insecticide in the farms, and it eventually flows out to the lakes and ponds. So how does it affect? The phosphorus also behaves like a nutrient for algae, and it is considered as the cause of prime pollutant for lakes. So whenever our source of water is lake or pond, so these things should be well considered. Let us quickly write down this note. Phosphorus is induced artificially in water system by the use of insecticides, fertilizers, and also detergents. Now it is considered as the prime pollutant. It is considered as the prime pollutant of lakes, as it is the prime nutrient, as it is the prime nutrient of algae. Okay, now let us study what are some of the impacts of alkalinity. What are some of the effects of alkalinity? Now what will happen? Firstly, alkalinity, if the water is having high pH, it will induce bitter taste. Then the prime problem with alkalinity is that it will lead to the problem of incrustation in the pipes and the distribution system, which will again adversely affect our supply system. Okay, so let us quickly write about this, and then we will be moving on that how do we measure or quantify alkalinity. Okay, so let us write a few points. Firstly, alkalinity imparts bitter taste. Next, the prime objection of alkalinity is that it leads to is that it leads to incrustation. It leads to incrustation in pipes and other apparatus. So, what are the major reactions that are involved with incrustation? एक बार देख लेते हैं incrustation कैसे होता है. So let us say there is a calcium ion. It will react with carbonate to form calcium carbonate, which will eventually precipitate down and it will turn into incrustation. Secondly, magnesium with OH minus converts into magnesium hydroxide, which again is a precipitate, again settle down. Then the rusting of iron. So this iron also reacts with OH minus or hydroxide ion and forms FeOH3 or ferric hydroxide. and which is also one of the causes of incrustation. Okay, now let us start with measurement of alkalinity. Now how is alkalinity measured? If you can recall your chemistry class of first year or plus 1 and plus 2, you can recall that we used to find out the alkalinity using the method of titration. Okay, so what were the concepts? Concepts were quite simple. What we did, we titrated the water sample with acid and we noted down the amount of acid used until the color changed of the water sample. The color changed was due to the addition of indicator which worked in some pH range. I'm just giving a brief layout of brief revision of titration. We'll be going in detail in the next lecture for that also. So for now, let us write down the basic that we discussed right now. So alkalinity in water is determined by alkalinity in water is determined by titrating it with an acid, titrating it with an acid and noting the hydrogen equivalent the hydrogen equivalent of alkalinity. अब आप अगर कार्बोनेट बाइकार्बोनेट या OH माइनस को रिएक्ट करा रहे हो तो वो हाइड्रोजन आयन से रिएक्ट होगा ना, या कोई पॉजिटिव आयन से, तो अपन उसको हाइड्रोजन के टर्म्स में, हाइड्रोजन इक्विवेलेंट के टर्म्स में एल्कालिनिटी को बताएंगे. ठीक है, क्या सिस्टम होता था? एक वी यूज टू हैव अ वाटर सैंपल. ओके, वी यूज टू हैव अ वाटर सैंपल which had unknown parameters. ये जनरल लेआउट बता रहा हूं मैं टाइट्रेशन से रिलेटेड. सो अननोन पैरामीटर को फाइंड करने के लिए अपन क्या करते थे, अपन पिपेट में जैसे एल्कलिनिटी निकालनी तो एसिड भरते थे. ठीक है, इस पिपेट में जो अपन भरते हैं इसको क्या बोलते हैं? टाइट्रेंट. ठीक है, सॉरी टेस्ट ट्यूब में अपन जो सॉरी पिपेट में जो लेते थे, देन अपन इसमें मिक्स करते थे इंडिकेटर. इंडिकेटर हिसाब से मिक्स करते थे कि किस पीएच वैल्यू पे अपने को कंप्लीशन दिख सकता है इस प्रोसेस का. So phenolphthalein, methyl orange, bromethyl blue, different types of indicators were used. And with the help of this system, we calculated the various unknown parameters in some standard values. Okay, no need to draw this because as of now it's of not much of use. अब इसको स्टार्ट करने से पहले मैं कुछ रिवीजन चाहता हूं आप लोगों से कि आप लोग कुछ रिवीजन करके आए जिससे पहले कि अपन केमिस्ट्री जो इसके पीछे है उसको स्टडी करें. एल्केलिनिटी मेजरमेंट, इसके आगे हार्डनेस मेजरमेंट भी आएगा, इसके न्यूमेरिकल्स भी आते हैं गेट में बहुत ज़्यादा. ना सिर्फ गेट में, अलग कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम्स में, इंजीनियरिंग सर्विसेज में, एज वेल एज आपके यूनिवर्सिटी पेपर्स में भी आएंगे इस पे न्यूमेरिकल्स, मिड टर्म्स, एंड टर्म्स, वॉट एवर. सो इसके पीछे आपको जो फर्स्ट ईयर में और प्लस 1 प्लस 2 में जो केमिस्ट्री में कुछ टर्म सिखाई गई थी वो आपको रिकॉल करना बहुत ज़रूरी है. सो फॉर टुडे आई एम जस्ट गिविंग यू द टर्म्स. इनके बारे में डिटेल डिस्कशन नेक्स्ट लेक्चर में करेंगे. तब तक आपको बाय एनी मीन्स, इधर बाय गूगल, इधर बाय आस्किंग योर फ्रेंड, इधर बाय डिस्कसिंग विद एनीवन or recalling your old notes, you have to find the definitions for these terms. Okay, एक बार समझ लेना है खुद से, जिससे जब मैं समझाऊं तो काफी इजीली अपन रिकॉल कर लें. ठीक है, कोई डाउट हो तो उस दिन आपका क्लियर भी हो जाएगा जब नेक्स्ट लेक्चर आता है. सो पहली टर्म हो गई आपकी मॉलिक्यूलर वेट. ये बहुत ही सिंपल है, ये आप अभी भी बता सकते हैं कि कितना इस मॉलिक्यूल का वेट है. इसको कैसे फाइंड आउट करते हैं ये आपको एक बार देखना है. देन मोल क्या होता है. ओके, देन इक्विवेलेंट वेट क्या होता है. व्हाट इज इक्विवेलेंट वेट, व्हाट इज मोल, मॉलिक्यूलर वेट, व्हाट इज ग्राम इक्विवेलेंट, व्हाट इज मोलैरिटी, व्हाट इज नॉर्मेलिटी. सो ये कुछ टर्म्स हैं जो आपको आज थोड़ी रिसर्च करनी है, रिवीजन करना है पुराने टॉपिक्स पे. ओके, सो दैट्स ऑल फॉर टुडेज क्लास. In the next session, we'll be continuing about our discussion on alkalinity measurements. Then we will move on to hardness, and we will be solving numericals. So attend the classes regularly and do please do these works by today itself. Okay, so that's all for this lecture. Myself Dhruv Saxena, your course instructor. We'll be meeting in our next lecture tomorrow. Have a good day.